Alright guys, let's do this. So AI has become a really big part of music production. I'm not talking about using Suno or platforms that do similar stuff. And if you're into music production, AI can be really helpful to turn up stuff that is kind of drowned in a mix, or even to remix something you don't have the multitracks from. But in this case, I'm not talking about studio stuff, I'm talking about live concert recordings. In this video, I want to look into something that was released officially, and that's actually a live concert DVD released by Drake Bell, which was released in 2008, and which is a concert from Mexico. And though Drake is one of my collaborators, I don't have any official stamps or multitracks from that concert. I don't even know if they still exist. I always loved this concert. It was like a big band. I think it was like a 9-piece band, and it was overall just a great show. So let's look at it. Let's figure out what it sounds like and if we can make this even better. Little disclaimer. Yeah, if you see this, I'm already into the mixing, but I just wanted to let you know, use headphones because you probably won't hear a difference if you use your phone or if you just use your laptop speakers. Alright, so what do you need to start with? Yeah, I mean, of course you need your audio you wanna remix. And in this case, this is Drake Bell's live recording from 2008. I use that as an example. You can of course use your own audio, but I gotta say, the result of your AI separation always depends on what quality your audio is. For example, if you just have a crappy camera pointing at the stage and this is all you got, maybe the results won't be really good, but I mean, it's always worth a try. So in my case, we have this audio from 2008, which was obviously multi-track recorded and mixed. And let's listen to it for a moment so you know how the original source sounds that I will try to make better.
I'm gonna see CC Rider, gonna see what you have done. Well, you made me love you, but now your man is gone. What I say, well I go, gonna let baby, and I won't be back.
Alright, so a lot of instruments going on. We have the drums, we have the guitars, we have piano, we have horns, we have bass. I think there's even an organ. So the mix doesn't sound bad at all. It's a mono mix, but I mean, it's kind of like a retro thing, I guess. And if you watch that actual live DVD, I mean, at one point, I think Drake is having a Super 8 camera on stage to film the crowd. So there is actually film stuff in it, but I think it was given a film look. They added grain to it and stuff. And it looks really retro, so the sound definitely fits to it. And I don't think they used any samples here. So this is the real band thing that happened. There's no samples mixed to the drums. I don't think they replaced stuff. I know they replaced stuff from another show that was played at the same day. But that's fine because maybe there were some mistakes. So yeah, but they didn't replace stuff in terms of going to the studio and re-recording a guitar or whatever. It's a good mix, but if you listen on headphones, it could be more stereo. And yeah, so let's see what we can do. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we go to mvzep.com. And by the way, I'm not paid to make this video. So I just love this website and I just love the quality of the models they offer, but I don't get paid. I wish. Yeah, just go to this website and then you can drag and drop your file here. In this case, this is my file. I will drop it here. So it's uploading now. And then you have a ton of models available. So you want to use the best ones, right? It always depends on what track you have there, but I want to separate everything. So I'm starting with the vocals and I'm actually using the MVZep Karaoke model because it gives me lead and backing vocals. And here you also have different options. I would always recommend to use the model that's already selected. Most of the time that's the latest ones and the best trained ones. You might get weird results on some of these, so you might just test what sounds best to you. And then it's really important that you choose extract vocals first. But that only counts if you upload the whole song to it. If you already upload vocals only and you just want to separate it into backing vocals and lead vocals, you can use as it is. Like use as is. That's weird. But yeah. So extract vocals first and then separate. I already separated all the tracks, so I don't do it again. But I will just show you what models they have, because if you even want to separate the backing vocals, they even have a model for this. And this is called Ambizap SATB Choir. And this separates into soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. I hope I pronounced that all correct. So you get 4 separated backing vocal tracks, which you can use. And then you also have drum separation. You will need this because that would be kick, snare, cymbals, tom, right, hi-hat, and crash. And they can even separate like orchestras. They can separate horn tracks, as you can see here. They have all kinds of stuff. They can even separate the crowd from your live audio, so you get the crowd as one track. It's insane what you can do. Alright, so I have my files here, and as you can see, it's quite a lot, but that's because the drums alone is 6 tracks. You have brass, you have the crowd, you have the drums, you have the guitar, and so on. You may notice that some of these sound really crappy, but trust me, it will sound better when we're done. Yeah, so let's open up Logic in my case. I mean, I don't know what software you work with. I work with Logic, so I'm gonna use Logic for this. So let's open Logic and import all the tracks. Also, don't get confused because my Logic is in German language, because I'm obviously not an English person. So, yeah, but here you can see all the tracks, and let's listen to everything together for a moment. As you can hear, like when we put all the stems together, it sounds exactly the way it sounded before. So the AI didn't change anything. But yeah, so how can we make this like stereo, and how can we make this maybe even better? One way would be to just like pan stuff to the left and to the right, so it gets stereo, I guess. But I mean,
I'm gonna see CC Rider, gonna see what you have to.
I mean, it's already more stereo, and I mean, you could be satisfied with that, but there's even more ways to make this sounding more like a professional thing. So how can we do it? But I'm gonna open my other Logic session where I already mixed the whole song, so you can see what I did. All right, so this is my project, and as you can see, I did a lot here. And you cannot even see everything right now, because if I open up the automation, you will see there's even automation happening. And yeah, so what did I do? So we have the drums. Let's start with the drums, actually. So we have the drums, and the raw kick drum sounds like this. So what I did to make this sound even better is simple, just use samples. And that's not even something they wouldn't do on live recordings. I mean, in this case, I'm pretty sure they didn't use any samples on the original release of that. But I mean, nowadays, samples are everywhere. You even have samples on the actual live shows. And yeah, so in Logic, you can add samples really easily. You just go to replace drums. I mean, you see this in German right now, but it should be like something like replace drum track. So I actually mixed in 2 different additional kick samples, and they sound like this. And together with the original kick, it sounds like this. Yeah, so these are pretty standard like kick sounds. I used one of the Logic internal instruments, which is called 4 on the Floor kit. And I used another one from Steven Slate Drums, which is, I think, actually the free version. If you want to mix in samples, I'd always recommend to try to find samples that sound similar to what the actual drum kit sounds like. So then we have the snare drum, which also has 3 different snare drums mixed in. And the original snare sounds like this. Then we have one snare sample which sounds like this. This one sounds mainly like a snare bottom microphone. So then we have another one which sounds like this, which is like a low snare, I would say. And then we have another one which sounds like this. And that's like really like a ringing snare, so I really like this. And for these samples, I also use different plugins like the Superior Drummer. Then I used some Logic internal stuff and some Addictive 2 drums. And all together, it sounds like this. With the kick. Without any samples, the kick and the snare sound like this. All right, so that sounds not bad. So then we also have the hi-hat, which was really drowned in the original mix. Like all the cymbals were really drowned. You couldn't hear them a lot. And I'm kind of impressed that the AI could actually like separate them and have something on the tracks. So this track includes the hi-hat, but it also includes the ride cymbal, because sometimes something is so drowned in the mix that it can't recognize which one is which cymbal. So sometimes it just has stuff wrong. But in this case, it's not a problem. This song was mainly played on hi-hat and ride, I think. So I can just use automation to get them on the right position. In my case, I like to pan the hi-hat to the left side. I know a lot of people prefer the right side, but I prefer the left side. Yeah, but the right should be on the right side. So we need to use automation to actually get the panning correct. So you can hear at this point he's playing on the hi-hat, so it needs to change to the left side. So what I'm gonna do is using automation to do that. So finding the right spot and then just changing the automation so it's on the right side, on the left side. Something like that should be correct. Let's listen to it. Yeah, I wasn't fast enough, but yeah, as you can see, the hi-hat is on the right spot. I mean, I also could separate these tracks from each other again with MV-Zap, or I just make cuts and put it on the different tracks so I can pan it to a different side. But yeah, in this case, I'm using automation. All right, that works. So we also have toms. We have a pretty good tom track here. I don't really use these toms in the mix. They are there, but really low in the mix, because I also used to replace the toms so I can actually pan them to the left and the right. And that sounds like this. And as you can hear, it's stereo now, and I tried to find samples that sound kind of the same. And together, everything together sounds like this. All right, then we have the crash cymbal track, which is really crappy if you listen to it without the other instruments. But if you listen to like everything, it's fine. So that's not bad. Sometimes it helps to normalize all these tracks. So stuff that's really low in the mix, but it's in the file, get up and you can work with that better. So I did this on a few tracks, I think on the toms, for example. Then we have the residual, I don't know how to pronounce that.
Residual.
Okay. Then we have the residual track. Then we have the residual track, which basically is only stuff that the AI probably didn't know what to do with. So I didn't touch that and I didn't even listen to it. Let's listen to it. Okay, as you can hear, this is just like some cymbal stuff and some artifacts, I would say. Yeah, I just didn't touch this. Then we have the horn track and also the trombone, which I separated from the rest of the horns because the trombone does a drum solo in this song. So I wanted to have options to mix this differently. So the horns sound like this. I did not separate all the horns from each other because I feel like the horns shouldn't be panned to the left and the right. They just should be in stereo. So I just used the wider plugin, which is free from Infected Mushroom. It's free, and I just I don't know how they do it, but you can actually put mono stuff to stereo with this plugin without having phasing issues, because that's what you don't want to have. So I did this. The horns originally sound like that. And I just put the wider, so it's a little wider. And also additionally, I put my own stereo delay, which is also just a Logic internal thing. And I just like if there's like a little bit delay on it. But you actually don't really hear this in the full mix. Then you have the trombone, which has, I think, it has the same delay, but it doesn't have the wider because it's a solo. So I wanted to have it in the middle of the mix. And yeah, it sounds like this. And then the other horns hit, and I did a little bit with automation here. You can see it. So I don't know. I don't think that's a common thing, but I liked it. So I just panned the trombone a little to the right and the horns a little to the left. I just like how it sounds there. And then we have the guitar track, which sounds like this. So yeah, you can hear it's kind of, I don't know, it's really crappy. But yeah, this is actually two guitars, but they couldn't be separated from each other. MVZap actually has models to separate lead and rhythm guitar and even acoustic guitar, which works, but it mainly works if the lead guitar plays a solo and the rhythm guitar just plays chords. It doesn't work if you have two guitars playing chords. So I couldn't do anything about it. But what I could do was to use the doubler from Waves. I think it's Waves. I used the doubler and just used the stereo guitar please preset. I think I played around a little here. But yeah, I just used this to at least get the guitar as stereo sound. Yeah, and that's it for the guitar. And then we have the organ, which also sounds really like really weird if you listen to it alone. I really didn't do a lot to it. I mainly cut away everything that's not even there. So why should I keep these frequencies if there's nothing happening? And then I have the Space Designer, which is also like a Logic internal plugin, which just gives me the option to make some reverb. So I did this and kept it mainly untouched. So we can listen to everything we heard for now. So you can see how it sounds. Yeah, then we have the bass, which sounds really nice. And all I did on the bass, I just added the R bass, like a Waves plugin, just to get a little more compression and stuff. But I mainly left the bass untouched. Then we have the piano, which sounds quite good for the separation because the piano is also something that was drowned a lot in that live mix. But you have to remember, like, it was a mono mix, so it's different than stereo and stuff gets drowned easier, I guess. Even though I never mixed something in mono, so I'm not an expert. So the piano sounds nice, but recently MVZap added a new model, which I will show you, which were really helpful for this piano. Okay, unfortunately, you have to be logged in, so you have to make an account on MVZap. So go to MIDI, and then you have the Transcoon MIDI piano model, whatever. And that basically lets you upload a piano track, and it will be converted to a MIDI track. And this is not completely new because you can convert audio to MIDI since ages, but it never really gets good results. And this one actually gets a complete copy of the original piano. So it really sounds good, and it even has the correct sustain, the correct velocity, and all that stuff. So that's what I did. So I got this really useful piano MIDI track, which I already converted back to audio, but you can use it with all your piano MIDI stuff, whatever. And this sounds like that. Sounds weird, I know. But if you listen to the piano and the MIDI piano together, it just sounds good. So what I use it for is mainly to have a stereo sound, because a piano sounds better if it's in stereo to my ears. So I just left the original piano untouched and it's mono. And then I added the MIDI piano to it, which is, as you can see, has not the same volume. And this one is in stereo. So you get the stereo feel, but you don't lose the original sound. And if you listen to it in the mix, it sounds just good enough to be there, I guess. Yeah, so the next track, and we don't have many left. The next track is obviously just the lead vocal, which sounds like this.
See, Rider, I'm gonna see what you have done. I'm gonna see Rider, well, you made me love you, but now your man is gone.
This is just the original lead vocal from the live DVD. and it has a lot of reverb on it. I didn't remove that. There's actually models for that too. You can remove reverb and delay and stuff like that, but I didn't because I would have added it back. So I just kept it like that. I didn't add any compression. I almost left it untouched, but I added a little more reverb to it actually. So I don't know if you hear the difference, but here's it with the Space Designer reverb.
Gonna see what you have done. Well, you made me love you, but now.
And I basically did this to have a stereo reverb going on, but you don't really hear it in the mix. And then we have the crowd, which is also really untouched. Here is what the crowd sounds like. And all I did there was to use the wider again to have a stereo crowd. I can turn it off so you can hear the mono crowd. So I just put this wider onto it. And then I have another crowd here, which actually I used from a different track from that show because I wanted to have crowd on certain parts of the song. And the really last step for me would be the mastering. I'm not a mastering engineer. So what I did here was using Ozone to master it. And if you know Ozone, you know that Ozone can master it without you having all the knowledge about mastering. So it just gives you options. So yeah, and that's how it all sounds together. So actually you could re-release that as an official release. All right, guys, thanks for watching this video. I hope you liked it. This is like a topic I don't see often on social media or YouTube. Maybe it's just like a producer thing, but I wanted to do this video because I think it's really, really interesting what new possibilities AI separation brings to music producers or musicians. If you want to have a look at my music or what I do for other people, check out my Instagram, YouTube, or even my website. You can also book me to work on your mixes. And if you're one of the people that have like live recordings, like soundboards, maybe of your own band, but you never could mix it because it's just a stereo or like a mono recording, reach out because maybe I can help you. So thanks for watching and see you soon. Bye.